Welcome, dear friends. Welcome to the second chapter of our story. Tonight, we continue with other page of a story that will stretch across many nights. A story of Chichen Itza, where stone temples whisper secrets and life moves in rhythms long forgotten. Tell me in the comments where you are listening from and what hour of the night keeps you company. It's always magical to know that these words travel across oceans and time zones. If you like the stories, please let us know in the comments which story you would like to hear next. If you are ready, soften the lights, let the world around you fade away, and allow yourself to wander into history's gentle embrace. The city of Chichen Itza was not built by stone alone. It was built by hands, tens of thousands of hands, each carrying a story, each carrying a life. Behind the towering pyramid and the sacred cenotes, behind the thundering drums of sacrifice and the echo of the ball court, there were people. Men and women, children and elders. The beating heart of the city was not its temples, but its people, the Itza. Let us step away from the great plazas for a moment, away from the grand rituals and the crowded festivals, and walk into the quieter corners of the city. Follow the narrow limestone paths, past crumbling walls, past doorways made of woven mats, and into the homes where ordinary life unfolded. The houses of Chichen Itza were not carved of stone like the temples. They were simpler, softer. Most were made of wood and thatch, poles driven into the earth, walls woven from reeds, roofs thatched with palm leaves. From above, the city was a mosaic, stone monuments rising like mountains, surrounded by clusters of these humble homes, like small islands in a sea of green. Step inside one. The air is warm, thick with the smell of maize cooking on a clay griddle. Smoke curls from a small fire, escaping through the thatched roof in thin streams. A woman kneels by the fire, her hands deftly patting maize dough into flat discs, tortillas, the foundation of every meal. Beside her, a clay pot bubbles with a stew of beans and squash, seasoned with chili. The scent is earthy, rich, sustaining. In the corner, a child plays with a small ball of rubber, laughing as he tosses it against the wall. His older sister weaves cotton thread on a backstrap loom, the cloth slowly growing with patterns of red and blue. Her fingers move quickly, practiced as if weaving were an extension of her body. Against the wall hangs a bundle of tools, digging sticks for the fields, obsidian knives for cutting, baskets woven from reeds. This is the life of most in Chichen Itza. Farmers who worked the milpas, the fields cut from the jungle. At dawn, men shouldered their digging sticks and walked out into the green, the air alive with birdsong. They burned patches of forest, cleared the ground, and planted maize, always maize, the staff of life. Around it, beans to climb the stalks, squash to spread across the ground, chilies for flavor. The cycle was ancient, the gift of the gods themselves. In the Popol Vuh, the great book of creation, the first humans were said to be shaped from maize dough. To plant it, to harvest it, was to reenact creation itself. But not all were farmers. Chichen Itza was a city of specialists. There were artisans who carved jade into beads and pendants, their hands steady as they shaped the hardest stone into delicate beauty. Others chipped obsidian into blades so sharp they could split hair. Potters worked clay into bowls and jars, some plain, others painted with scenes of gods and heroes. And there were traders. The city thrived on trade, its markets alive with color and sound. Imagine standing in the great market square on a busy morning. The sun is high, the plaza crowded. Merchants call out, displaying their goods. Cacao beans from the south, bright feathers of quetzal and macaw, jaguar pelts, cotton cloth, salt carried from the coast, shells polished smooth by the sea. The air is thick with the smell of roasting food, with the sound of barter and laughter, with the rhythm of a city alive. Through this market walk the Itza themselves, the people of the serpent. Their faces are painted, their bodies adorned. Many wear simple cotton tunics, but others display wealth. Jade necklaces, gold ear spools, cloaks dyed with the deep blue of indigo. Some file their teeth to sharp points, in patterns that gleam when they smile. Others press their children's heads with boards while young, shaping their skulls into elongated forms, a sign of beauty, of nobility, of difference. To our eyes it may seem strange, but to theirs it was the mark of belonging. Among them moved the warriors, tall, strong, their bodies painted with jaguar spots or serpent scales. They wore helmets shaped like eagles, jaguars, or snakes, their mouths hidden by snarling masks. At their belts hang obsidian blades, their edges glinting black and sharp. They stride through the market with pride, symbols of protection, but also of power. For in Chichen Itza, as in all the Maya world, war was never far. But let us not forget the children. They are everywhere, chasing one another through the alleys, splashing in the cenotes, learning to throw small balls of rubber, to imitate their fathers in a ball game. Some sit quietly, listening as elders tell stories, tales of gods and heroes, of the hero twins who played ball against the lords of the underworld, of Kukul Khan, the feathered serpent who brought wisdom and order. These stories are not entertainment alone. They are lessons, threads that bind each child to the cosmos, teaching them who they are and what the world means. Pause here a moment. Close your eyes. Hear the murmur of voices in the market, the laughter of children, the distant echo of drums from a temple ceremony. Smell the smoke of cooking fires, the sweetness of cacao, the salt of sweat under the midday sun. This is Chichen Itza, not as ruin, but as home. A city alive, breathing, its people woven into the very stones that still stand today. As the seasons turned, the lives of the Itza moved with them. Each cycle of planting, each harvest, each festival was a step in the great dance of time. For the Maya, life was not linear, rushing forward to some unknown end. It was circular, eternal, a wheel that spun with the stars. Every moment was part of a pattern, and every person had their place within it. Festivals were the heartbeat of this rhythm. Imagine the plaza on such a day. The city stirred before dawn, fires already lit, smoke rising above the rooftops. Women ground maize in a fine flour, preparing tamales wrapped in leaves, cacao mixed with honey, fruits cut into offerings. Men painted their bodies, tying feathers into their hair, sharpening obsidian knives, readying for both ceremony and spectacle. Children whispered with excitement, too restless to sit still, waiting for the drums to call them forth. Then, slowly, the city gathered. From the smallest hut to the grandest stone palace, everyone walked toward the great square, filling it with color and sound. The market overflowed with goods, but for once, trade was not the focus. Today was about the gods. Today was about harmony with the unseen world. At the heart of these festivals was sacrifice. To the Maya, sacrifice was not cruelty, but balance. The gods had created the world with blood. They had mixed their own lifeblood with maize to form humanity. To keep the balance, blood had to be given back. Sometimes it was the blood of kings, drawn from the tongue or ear with thorns of stingray spines. Sometimes it was captives, brought from war, their lives offered in great ceremonies atop the pyramids. To watch such a ritual was to see the very fabric of the cosmos renewed, a reminder that life flowed in cycles of giving and taking. Yet not all festivals were solemn. Many were joyous, filled with music and dance. Drums thundered, shells were blown like trumpets, flutes whistled high and clear. Dancers painted like jaguars, and serpents leapt across the plaza, feathers flashing in the sun. Whole families sang, their voices rising together, echoing against the stone. The ball court, the largest in Mesoamerica, came alive with games. Not just sport, but sacred theater. Imagine standing in that court, its walls towering, its stone rings high above. The players stepped onto the field, their bodies padded with leather, their hips and shoulders ready. The rubber ball bounced, heavy and solid, and the game began. They could not touch it with hands or feet, only hips, elbows, shoulders. Each strike echoed like thunder. The crowd roared, for this was not only a game. It was a reenactment of myth, the eternal struggle between life and death, the movement of the sun through the underworld. To win or lose was to echo the gods themselves. Some say the victors were sacrificed, their blood offered as the highest honor. Others say it was the defeated. The truth may never be known, but the meaning was clear. The game was life itself, played out in stone. When night fell, the city did not sleep in silence. Fires flickered, torches lined the plazas, their flames dancing against stone walls. Families gathered to eat, their meals simple yet rich. Maize tamales, beans stewed with herbs, squash roasted in clay. Around them, laughter and song filled the air. And above, the stars glittered, sharp and countless, as if the heavens themselves leaned close to watch. It is easy, perhaps, for us today to imagine these people as distant, as strangers. But in these moments of night, sitting together under the same stars we still see, they become familiar. Parents told children stories of gods and ancestors, of brave warriors and trickster twins. Lovers sat together, whispering quietly, their faces lit by firelight. Elders spoke of cycles, reminding all that they were part of something vast, something eternal. In these stories, one figure appeared again and again. Kukul Khan, the feathered serpent. He was more than a god. He was the thread that tied heaven to earth, spirit to matter, order to chaos. To the people of Chichen Itza, he was not distant. He descended in shadow, in serpent form, upon the pyramid itself. He lived in their rituals, in their chants, in the way they sowed maize and built homes. He was present, watching, guiding. Pause for a moment and imagine being a child in Chichen Itza. You sit at the edge of the plaza, the drums still echoing in your chest. You look up at the pyramid, where torches burn like stars, and you believe, truly believe, that the serpent will appear, that the gods are listening. For you, the world is alive, breathing with you, speaking to you. Every stone has memory. Every flame has spirit. Every drop of blood has meaning. This is what made the people of the serpent who they were. Their lives were woven into the city's stones, into the cycles of maize and sky, into the ceremonies that bound them to gods and ancestors alike. They were not passive observers of the cosmos. They were its dancers, its singers, its givers of life. And in their daily rhythms, in every tortilla, every market cry, every drumbeat, they carried the heartbeat of Chichen Itza forward, so that even now, 1,000 years later, we can still hear its echo. As the last embers of day sank into the jungle horizon, Chichen Itza revealed a second face, the city of night. By torchlight, the stones glowed warm, their sharp edges softened by shadows. The plazas, which had been bursting with trade and festival hours earlier, grew quieter. And yet, if you listened, you could still hear the low murmur of life. Laughter carried from one courtyard, a flute drifted from another, the bark of a dog echoed against stone. Here, in the hush of darkness, the city was not just grand temples and cosmic rituals. It was human. Families gathered outside their homes, the flicker of small fires painting their faces in amber. Mothers wove cotton, their fingers deft, creating tunics and cloaks that shimmered when adorned with jade and shells. Fathers carved wood or sharpened tools, their work steady, unhurried. Children played with simple toys, a carved ball, a doll of maize husks, a miniature clay jaguar. And above them all, the sky stretched like a black ocean, stars burning like embers on its surface. For the Maya, this sky was alive with stories. And so, as the night deepened, the people told them. Picture a small group gathered in a circle. An elder sits at its center, his hair silver, his skin lined by years of sun. The children lean close, their eyes wide, their ears eager. He speaks slowly, his voice a mixture of chant and whisper. He tells of the hero twins, Hunapu and Zbalank, who descended into the underworld to face the lords of death. They were tricked, tested, forced to play the ballgame of life itself. But through cunning and courage, they triumphed. rising again as sun and moon. As the elders' words rise and fall, the children imagine the underworld, its rivers of blood, its houses of knives and darkness. They imagine the twins' laughter as they outwitted gods, their triumph as they leapt back into the heavens. And when the story ends, the children glance at the sky, as if searching for the twins' light among the stars. Another night, another story. The great flood, when the gods destroyed the world to begin anew. Or the tale of a woman who became the moon, fleeing from the grasp of jealous gods. Or the legend of Kukulkan, the feathered serpent, who brought maize to the people and taught them the cycles of time. Each story was not mere entertainment. It was instruction. It was history. It was faith wrapped in the cloth of memory. For the Maya, to speak was to shape reality. Words had power. A chant could call rain. A prayer could heal sickness. A story could bind the living to the dead. And when words were not enough, there were rituals of the night. By torchlight, priests performed ceremonies in hidden courtyards or atop temples where only a few could see. The smell of copal resin thickened the air, sweet and sharp, carried on smoke that curled toward the heavens. Men and women knelt, heads bowed, as the priests drew blood from their own bodies, tongues, ears, or genitals pierced with bone or stingray spines. The drops fell onto bark paper, which was then burned. The smoke carried the blood skyward, a message to the gods. It may seem harsh to us, but to the Maya, this was not pain for its own sake. It was communion. Blood was sacred. It was life itself, and life had to be shared if balance were to hold. Elsewhere in the city, couples walked quietly in the cool of evening. Love and courtship had their own rituals. A young man might play the flute beneath the home of a woman he admired. Gifts of cacao or jade might pass between families. And if the union was agreed, marriage was marked not by grandeur, but by ritual meals, by shared hearths, by the weaving together of lives. And yet, life here was not without fear. The jungle held dangers, jaguars prowling at night, snakes hidden in the grass. Illness came suddenly, unexplained, striking down young and old alike. Storms tore through the forest, lightning cracking like God's laughter, rain flooding the streets. And always, there was the uncertainty of war. Neighboring cities rose and fell. Allies became enemies, and captives were marched in chains to face sacrifice upon the pyramids. In these moments of fear, the people turned again to ritual. They offered food, blood, and prayer. They trusted the priests, who read omens in the flight of birds, in the movement of stars, in the way the fire cracked as it burned. And they trusted the gods, fierce, demanding, but also generous, sustaining the maize that grew each year, sustaining the sun that rose without fail. Yet even with all their rituals, their fears, and their hopes, the nights of Chichen Itza were filled with a kind of peace. Imagine yourself walking through the city now, in the deep of night. The fires are dim, the people asleep, the air warm and still. The jungle hums with insects and endless chorus. The great pyramid looms in silence, its shadow black against the stars. And above it, the sky swirls, eternal, vast, endless. It is here, in this quiet, that you realize something. The people of Chichen Itza were not so different from us. They worked, they celebrated, they feared, they loved. They watched the stars and wondered. They told stories to their children. They tried, in every way they knew, to make sense of the mystery of life. And in doing so, they left behind a city of stone, not cold, not empty, but alive, echoing still with their voices. If you listen closely, you can almost hear them. The laugh of a child chasing fireflies, the beat of a drum in the plaza, the low chant of a priest offering smoke to the heavens. These sounds drift across time, and in them, the people of the serpent still live.